Manchester United have decided to put Antony up for sale in January. Álvaro Fernandez's buyback clause is revealed. We've got manager talk and injury updates to go through. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with some manager talk. So it's been said by a fairly credible source saying that Edin Terzić is the shock name on Manchester United's shortlist to replace Erik ten Hag. He has many admirers at Old Trafford. Would there be a connection with Christopher Vivell? That's what I keep thinking when we're getting linked with a lot of managers, because there's another name that we've been linked with that we potentially made a move for in the summer, or spoke to before we decided to stick with Ten Hag. So I'm thinking that maybe that has something to do with that as well. Obviously, a young manager, good coach. I'm not 100% convinced so that would be the right choice, but I trust the people in charge to do their kind of due diligence before bringing in anybody else, bringing in another manager and making the decision. But another name to add to the shortlist, I think personally that's a little bit of media talk, just linking us with a manager that's currently available. Did a good job at Dortmund, so would be an interesting option. But for me, I think it's just a little bit of I'd need to see some more credibility, is what I would say regarding that one. And then the other name is Sebastian Hoeneß. So in the summer, Manchester United inquired about Stuttgart manager Sebastian Hoeneß. He felt flattered but politely declined, as he doesn't see his career at Stuttgart as over. So that it was from Bild. The credibility on the journalist that reported it, I'm not so sure about. I don't know the actual credibility. I mean, Bild are a decent source, but the journalist that kind of put the article out, I'm not 100% convinced by. But again, for me, we know we were talking with managers in the summer as part of the kind of strategic review. So we would have spoken to Tuchel, no doubt Potter. Obviously, Hoeneß would have been one that's come to light as well. There was a number of managers, McKenna. I mean, like loads of managers that we kind of spoke to, and then ultimately the decision was to kind of stick with Ten Hag. Only time will tell whether that was the right decision or not. At the moment, it's not looking the best, is it? Let's be honest. The fact that we're 14th in the league, and in fact, let's bring this in here actually, and look at this. I've seen this from Statman Dave saying that Crystal Palace, St. Pauli, Southampton, and Lecce are the only sides across Europe's top 5 leagues that have scored less goals than Manchester United this season. That's horrific. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're the 5th lowest scorers in Europe, apparently, according to Statman Dave. So that kind of hones in why the start of the season hasn't been the best. So I can, but I did say to you in a previous video that we're going to get a lot more links with a lot more managers now, just purely because the pressure is on Erik ten Hag. So we are going to start to see a lot more of these stories kind of coming out. Sebastian Hoeneß would be a good option, and again, he's one of these kind of managers that started something and maybe felt that he had unfinished business at Stuttgart, a little bit in a similar way to some of the other managers that are currently in a position. So again, it's going to be difficult to get these managers midway through a season or at the start of the season, which is the difficulty, I think, of the decisions that Ineos and Dan Ashworth and everyone have regarding the manager. But 2 interesting options. Let me know what you think about those in the comments. Would you take either Sebastian Hoeneß or Edin Terzić as United manager if they make the decision to remove Ten Hag, or would you keep with Ten Hag and over those 2? Let me know what you think in the comments. Now, there was a lot of news last week, I think it was at the end of the week, regarding Manchester United potentially going back in for Álvaro Fernández, and there's been a few more interesting updates regarding that. So, firstly, Liverpool are strongly interested in signing former Manchester United left-back Álvaro Carreras. He has a €50 million release clause. Now, that came from the same Portuguese outlet that actually suggested that United, along with Real Madrid and Barcelona, are also interested in Álvaro. €50 million is the release clause that was negotiated into that contract. But then And Record, who another Portuguese outlet, have said that Manchester United have a £16.7 million buyback clause for Benfica's Álvaro Carreras. So that's interesting. That's the first kind of report that I've heard regarding what United's buyback price is. 16.7 for us, 50 million euros for anybody else is his kind of release clause. So really interesting kind of developments regarding Álvaro Carreras. And I think going off of the kind of comments, I think most of you wouldn't be against bringing him back. I think he's had a really good season for Benfica. I've got his stats, which we'll go through in a second, which kind of highlight that as well. But yeah, one of those, isn't it? I mean, it's one of those where we let him go. Obviously, felt we had adequate cover with Malacia and Luke Shaw, who have both been injured. You know, I don't think they think Harry Amas is quite ready as well, although he is there. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? The Alvaro one. For me, though, I think he's done really well. And if you are looking for a left back, then, you know, he would be an interesting option to kind of bring back. I wouldn't be against it anyway. And then Steve Rawlinson, who works for the Manchester United, said Manchester United have until the 2026 summer transfer window to activate their buyback option on Álvaro Carreras. United were happy with the clauses they negotiated in their sale of Fernandez, and sources said in the summer that they had built a lot of protections in similar sales of players, because obviously we did let go a few surprising youngsters in the summer, but apparently they all have like similar clauses involved in their contract as well, which is what we kind of discussed at the time. We can't hold all these players, and with PSR, we have to move on some of these players, and unfortunately we are going to have a situation where some of these players might go away and look really good. And it's through no fault United, because like I said, we can't hoard them. We need to remove them in order to buy players in. So it's good that United are protecting themselves by putting in these kind of buyback clauses and sell-on clauses and all that stuff as well. But in terms of, you know, Álvaro Fernández, that's his stats so far for this season. Top, you know, what an outstanding season he's having. Top 93% of his shot creating actions at left back. Top 93 for total shots. 95 for passes attempted, 93 for progressive passes, 94 for take on, 99 for progressive passes, top 80 for tackles, top 91 for aerials one as well. That's outstanding for a young left back. You know, is it one of those where we've let go a really, really top talented left back, and they're going to end up paying more than what we sold him for to bring him back? Thankfully, they have put a clause in though, so it's not quite going to be a Paul Pogba situation. But looking at the stats and the data and the fact that we are massively, you know, in need of a left back, it's not the worst idea in the world for me personally. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now, there's been some updates regarding player exits. So, firstly, take this story with a pinch of salt because it's not come from a credible source, the Daily Star, but they're saying that Manchester United will listen to offers for Harry Maguire in January, starting at just £10 million, which seems really low considering we paid 80 for him. But actually, he's due to walk away for free in the summer anyway. So if you've got 10 million, yes, it's embarrassing, and it's, you know, it's a really kind of low fee for what I think's a good player. But it's either 10 million or nothing. Personally, I think we've already kind of made that decision because, and I do think we need Harry Maguire between now and the end of the season. So even, yeah, if it was like 20 million, I think we would maybe consider it a little bit more for January. But for £10 million seems a little bit low, but it's better than nothing. So it's one of these weird ones, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I could see the benefit of selling him because it's 10 million quid. You know, or you keep him and let him go for nothing. So if you're looking from a PSR perspective, then it's better to get the £10 million than it is for nothing. But then also, I do think we need him. He's an important player for us at the moment. Arguably one of our best centre halves this season. I know he's injured, but you know he's playing really well. So do we need him for the second part of the season? I mean, Lenny Yoro's going to be coming back. Victor Lindelof's still there. Would be a risk, but it's one of these, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? You either get the £10 million, which is better than nothing, or you keep him for squad cover towards the end of the season. But I suppose it depends on if you're looking to replace him or who you're looking to replace him with, because another idea would be to maybe sell him for 10, getting Álvaro Fernández, for example, at left back, but then you've got Luke Shaw that could also play at left-sided centre-back if he's still fit. although he might not still be fit. And then we've got Malacia as well. So it does give you options. It's not the worst idea. I don't think personally. It's just one of those. Do you know what I mean? It'll leave us short at centre half. But if Lenny Yoro comes back, if Maguire's going to be pushed down the pecking order anyway, and then it's better than nothing what we're going to get for him in the summer. So it is a bit of a weird one. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll like to hear your opinion on that one with Maguire. And then another player that's been linked with moving on in January is Antony. Manchester United has decided to let Antony leave in January. He's available on loan or a permanent transfer. Ajax, Newcastle and Crystal Palace are all interested in the winger. So it's not come from the most credible sources, but it's not the first time we've heard that United would look to be getting rid of Antony going forward. I do think he's massively down the pecking order. He's not really performed anywhere near what I expected of him in the time that he's been here. In fact, he's been a massive disappointment from the player that was at Ajax, and I can't see. I just think the Premier League's too quick for him. I just think he's one of these that might look good in a slightly slower league. But I do think that the Premier League is just far too quick for Antony. Hopefully, I'm proven wrong, and he comes in and absolutely smashes it if he gets given an opportunity this season. But I think I've seen enough to kind of be able to say, well, I don't think that's going to happen as much as I would want it to happen. But interesting, Ajax, back to Ajax, Newcastle, Palace. I don't think anyone's going to buy him, though, in January, because it would either take a massive loss on him, which doesn't help us actually with PSR, because PSR is done over a 3-year period. So if we sell him for less than what we paid for him, which is inevitably going to happen in January, that does massively impact our PSR. So I could maybe see a loan for the second part of the season, potentially with an obligation to buy or an option to buy in the summer, because then that doesn't really have too much of an impact on PSR. So I could see that potentially happening. Interesting. So obviously Ajax, Newcastle, Palace, he'd probably do a decent job at some of those teams. Although I do think, like I said, I think he's just, one of these players that just might not be good enough to play in the Premier League. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. And final stories got for you is regarding some injury updates. So Mazraoui's corrective heart procedure is thankfully not alarming, and he is expected to be available within 3 weeks. That came from Samuel Luckhurst, who's a shit stirrer, but but is a credible source. He also said that it is possible that Mazraoui's absence will see Victor Lindelof at right back against Brentford. He started at left back against them at Old Trafford last October. So because of the lack of cover we've got in the fullback positions, which a lot of you did say, and I share that concern as well from the summer, that's leaving us massively short, specifically at left back. Now it might come back to bite us. Although Lindelof did do all right second half when he came on for Mazraoui in the last game, but different kettle of fish, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Playing against certain teams. So, it is a concern. Definitely a concern. But thankfully, Mazraoui's okay. That's the most important thing, especially when it comes to corrective heart procedures, because that sounds horrific, but apparently he's going to be back within a few weeks. And then the Manchester Evening News also provided an injury update on a few other players. So Mazraoui's expected to be back in November. So's Lenny Yoro, which is good. Can't wait to see him kind of come back and see how he integrates into the team, whether he plays him with Martinez, whether he's a rotation option, whether he'll play maybe alongside De Ligt, you don't know. But yeah, definitely gives us a few options at the back. Luke Shaw, potentially the Manchester Evening News said he might be back for the Brentford game, which would be interesting, whether he would start him straight away or not, who knows? I mean, I'd like to hope that they've been doing some behind closed doors games for Luke Shaw if he is available to start, but who knows. Malacia potentially back this month as well. Garnacho and Ahmad should all be available for the Brentford game according to the Manchester Evening News, which is good. But yeah, that's you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I enjoy reading them. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and I will see you in the next one.